Grief is a thin place. A place so thin it's hard to tell where earth ends and heaven begins. Grief is a place so thin that it's where the living and the dead feel one another's love. I'm Lisa Hamilton, an Episcopal priest, and I grieve. First, I'll read some scripture that many Christians use in worship during Lent, and then I'll struggle with those words through the lens of grief. I'm glad you've joined me. Today's scripture is from Luke, chapter 18. Jesus said, "All who exalt themselves will be humbled, but all who humble themselves will be exalted." If you've ever been fortunate enough to visit Assisi, Italy, you know the Basilica of St. Francis that dominates the town. In a corner of the basilica's massive lawn stands this unaccountably modern statue. It's by Norberto, a local artisan made good. When Francis, a privileged son of Assisi, was about 20 years old, he became a knight. He was a well-kitted knight, but he was inexperienced and he was captured quickly. After a year as a prisoner of war, broken in every way, Francis returned home to Assisi. And the Norberto statue captures that moment of defeat. Everything about the dark grayish-green bronze hangs down. The horse's head hangs down, Francis' head hangs down, even Francis's toes point downward. It is a study in shame. I wish I didn't feel such affinity with that young failed knight and his posture of defeat and fear. But I had heard this posture when Ted called from jail, had seen this posture as he walked into rehab or when we met with his lawyer, and I had imagined this posture as the clock ticked into place on each court date. I think Ted faced heaven like Francis the failed knight. Ashamed, bewildered, scared. He planned to wake up beside his fiancée of one night. He hadn't planned to wake up dead, crushed by mistakes, illnesses, soul sickness. When I saw that statue, I just longed to scramble over the hedge and get a good look at that knight's face. Of course, it wasn't the statue's face I wanted to hold. I wanted to hold Ted's beautiful, bearded face in my hands and tell my son once more, again and again, that he is loved beyond his imagining, beyond mine, beyond his dad's, whose joy in him was boundless, even in this life where love has limits. The night before the first anniversary of Ted's death, I reached as far as I could across the hedges and tossed some of his ashes into the night. The breeze carried some of them back to my mouth and eyes, but in the moonlight, I could see that at least some of my precious boy landed at the failed knight's feet. Please, Francis, please. Please lift my boy's face and look him in his sad, sweet, olive amber eyes and tell him how proud I am that he never, ever lost his compassion. Even in the throes of addiction, Ted would tell me about others' hungers, others' fears, others' pain. Even before he could come to terms with his own empty spaces, Ted wanted to understand others' darkness. I believe Ted understands his life completely now. And on this side of the veil, I cannot. But that night, at least, we came together at the foot of a statue erected to the power of shame and defeat and confusion. Grief is a thin place.